A very good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Smart Nation NU Let's Learn webinar on cloud and virtualization technology, empowering faster and smarter businesses. My name is Karen, and I'll be your host for today. Now, Singapore Smart Nation initiative is all about using technology to improve the way we live, we work, and we play. And in order to realize this vision, it is important for all Singaporeans to be equipped with digital skills so that we can take advantage of new, exciting job opportunities, especially during this period of time when many of us are concerned about our careers. Now, this is why the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office and NTUC LearningHub are glad to bring to you the Smart Nation NU Let's Learn Festival. NTUC LearningHub is proud to be the official continuing education and training provider powering the Let's Learn segment of this exciting event with something for everyone. Now, today's webinar, we will be touching on cloud and virtualization technology, empowering faster and smarter businesses. Do note that this session will be recorded, so if you'd like to recap your learnings, you can visit the Smart Nation YouTube channel. A recording of the various sessions will be made available about 2 weeks after the festival. Now, we'd also like to encourage all of you to stay till the end because we do have a post-webinar survey, and 2 participants who complete the survey will win $10 fair price online vouchers. Now, today we have with us Habib. He is an IT professional with over 12 years of experience in developing and delivering technical training on hybrid cloud technologies to diverse environments with demanding schedules and evolving management objectives. So everybody, if you've got any questions for Habib along the way, feel free to use the Q&A function at any time, and he will do his best to answer them. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Habib. Habib, please.
Thanks, Karen. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. So I'm Habib, currently working for VMware as a senior technical instructor. So I almost teach all the products which VMware is selling in market today. Before working for VMware, I worked for HP and Dell as a solution consultant, where I used to deal with selling and supporting their server infrastructure. So I've been a full-time infrastructure guy, which means if you want me to build your cloud, I can do it from the scratch. So before I kill you with slides, what I wanted to give is a quick introduction to some terminologies which you would see throughout the course content, and then some basics with respect to virtualization and cloud. I want this session to be more interactive. So if you want to jump in, ask something or offer something with respect to any explanations, feel free to do that. So saying that, let's jump into the whiteboard here. So we are here to talk about 2 things: virtualization and cloud. So before we start with these 2 terminologies, let me start with some basics first. So when I think of a basic, the first thing as an IT person that comes into my mind is a computer. What is a computer, guys? I know we all are IT professionals. I know it's a very silly question, but believe me, everything starts with this box. So anyone who wants to just jump in and give me a definition for computer here? You can unmute your line, speak up, or just help me with that information in the chat box. So go back to your old school days, guys. When we think about computer, the first thing that comes into our brain is, hey, it's a box which processes something. So we give input to that, and then it processes it and gives the output. That's what our computer is all about, right? For a computer to run, there are 4 things which are required. Like for our car to run, we need 4 wheels. Similarly, for a computer, the 4 wheels are your CPU, your memory, your network, and your storage. This is what we need. Hey, when I talk about computer, CPU, memory, network, and storage, these guys are hardware components. They speak only ones and zeros. So what do I do with that? I can't speak ones and zeros. So first step, you buy the hardware, which means you buy the CPU, memory, network, and storage, like from a vendor like Dell. Then you install the operating system. Then you install your application. This is what we do. Think about it. At home, for our kids or for our kids, what we do, we first buy the laptop or a desktop, then we install the operating system, example Windows 7, then we install the application, example your Windows Office. So this is what computer is allowing us to do. Take input, process it, and gives you output. So once the definition for computer is good, then the second definition which I want you to learn today is a server, because this is a next very common term that you will hear in IT. So what is a server? A server is a big computer. Hey Habib, then what's the difference? I have a computer. Why not call a server also a computer? Why are we calling it as a server? Because this guy gives you more. What do you mean by more? Just remember this keyword map. This guy gives you more options with respect to manageability. This guy gives you more options with respect to availability. And this guy gives you more options with respect to performance. So think about your computer. If I want to connect to a computer remotely, I have, if it's a Windows box, I have RDP, remote desktop connection, or I go with SSH, if it's a Linux box. But whereas in a server, you have a special card called ILO, Integrated Lights Out. HP calls it as ILO, Dell calls it as DRAC, Remote Access Card. So what is the benefit of this? I don't have to walk into a data center. I can just connect to the box remotely and I can manage it remotely. I can do whatever I want to do with that particular server box. I can install an operating system, collect hardware logs, run diagnostic tests. I can do all of that. So manageability is more with respect to server. Availability is where we talk about redundancy. What do you mean by redundancy? Hey, when I talk about computer, I only have one hard drive. I only have one network adapter. I only have one power supply. But when I talk about a server, for every component, there is a redundant component. For example, 2 power supplies, 2 network adapters, multiple hard drives, RAID controller card. So this is where the availability part comes into picture. The last thing is performance. Because it's a big computer, because it comes with more compute capacity, definitely when you run your application, you get more resources for that application and the performance of that application will be better. So what does that mean, Habib? In an enterprise, let's say an enterprise like a company, IBM, if I want to host an application, the first thing is I will buy the hardware, which means I'll buy the x86 server. Then I will install the operating system, example, Windows 2008 or 2012. Then I install my application. Okay, this is what we do. So just remember for now, there is always a 1:1 relationship, one application, one operating system, one hardware, one operating system. So this 1:1 ratio is what we generally follow in an enterprise. We will come back to that ratio, what's wrong with that ratio in some time when we introduce you to virtualization. The third term that I want you to learn today is a cluster. What do you mean by cluster? A cluster is nothing but group of servers. Habib, why do I need to group them? Because at any given point of time, if one server goes down, my application should not go down. Remember, your application is what your clients are connecting to, your users are connecting to. So if one server goes down, I should not have a failure. I should have higher availability. So that's where the cluster comes into picture. Cluster makes sure that there is some kind of communication between these 2 operating systems and applications so that the data gets replicated over. And then if one box goes down, the other one processes the request from the end users. So cluster is a group of servers. Habib, why are we going with a cluster solution? Because no vendor in market today can promise you that, hey, I won't have any failures with both the power supplies at the same time. So the question is, what happens if 2 power supplies fail at the same time? The server is down, which means the operating system is not accessible. The application is also not accessible. So similarly, what happens if both the network adapters goes down? So to accommodate high availability and scalability, people go with cluster. The fourth term that I want you to learn today is data center. What do you mean by a data center? Hey, I can convert my room into a data center. All I need is few racks, each rack filled with servers, and on every rack, a switch, and then a cooling solution, and then a power solution. That's it. That's what I need. So a data center is a place where you find all the major infrastructure components of IT. I'll write it down here. All major infrastructure components is what we find it. What do you mean by all major infrastructure components? Service, storage, your network. When I say networks, all your switches, routers, firewalls, load balancers, etc. Everything comes into picture, plus a power and cooling solution. So that's what a data center is. Jurong in Singapore is a known place for hosting multiple data centers for multiple cloud providers. So all those big buildings that you see can be one of those data centers that we generally host all the major applications these days. So now that we understand the difference between the term computer, server, cluster, and data center, let's talk about what is virtualization, and then why virtualization. So what is virtualization and why do we need it? So believe me when I say this, if you want to build your cloud, step one is to buy the hardware. Step two is to virtualize it. Without virtualizing your hardware, you can't build your cloud, whether it is private cloud, public cloud, or hybrid cloud. Don't worry if you don't know about those definitions. We will talk about them in about a few minutes of time. So let's talk about it. Now, like I said, in an enterprise, the basic step, if you want to run an application, is to buy the server, install the OS, install the application. What if this company called IBM have 100 applications to run? So in olden days, we used to buy 100 servers. Why, Habib? Remember I told you a 1:1 ratio is always considered. One operating system, one server, one application on one operating system. Hey, Habib, why can't I run multiple applications? So the reason why we can't run multiple applications is because the operating systems are dumb. They can't help you with optimization. Example, let's say this is application one, this is application two. Your operating system can't justify which application should I give more resources to. So that's a challenge, right? I don't want my application two, which is a critical application, to run out of resources. So to avoid that, to avoid single point failure, what if the operating system itself crashes? Both applications are affected. To avoid conflicts, what people said, hey, one operating system, one application. So this was the ratio which they used to follow, which means if you are a company like IBM where you need to run 100 applications, you need to buy 100 servers. But what are the challenges if I go with this 1:1 ratio? The first challenge is the cost. How much do you think a server costs? If I talk about a 4U rack server, it's $5,000, which means for 100 servers, your cost is increasing. Second challenge is cabling. More servers, which means more cables. Third thing, more power. Fourth thing, you need more space. Fifth thing, you need a better cooling solution. The server gets heated up. So we need to make sure that they run in a cool environment. Then management becomes difficult. Out of the most important point is point number 7, where we say provisioning time. What do you mean by provisioning time? Hey, if I place an order for a server, how much time does it take for me to receive a server? In today's time, if the reseller has the model that you need, within a day. If not, a week, a month. It could be that. So provisioning time itself is a challenge. So the question was, how do I reduce these challenges? So that's where people came up with something called virtualization. So what is virtualization? Let's draw it. Step 1 doesn't change. What was step 1? Buy the server, which means the hardware, basically. This hardware includes your CPU, memory, network, and storage. Second step, if you remember from the earlier picture, it was to install the operating system. But what are we doing here? We're installing something called hypervisor. Third step is to create and manage virtual machines. A virtual machine is a software computer. Because it's a computer, I can install OS and an application. So if you see here, let me just minimize the picture a little bit so that you can see both the diagrams in single page. So if you see here on the left-hand side, you're buying a server, you're installing the operating system, and you're running only one application. But if you see here in this diagram, I'm running 5 applications. This is what we call it as consolidation. And then hypervisor is the guy who gives you something called an abstraction layer. What is the benefit of this abstraction layer? The benefit is I'm going to pool the resources and I'm going to share those resources with these guys. Pooling and sharing is what virtualization does in simple terms. So the technical definition of virtualization is running multiple workloads on a single server by pooling the resources and sharing those resources across virtual machines. The basic responsibility of the hypervisor, the one who provides virtualization, is to create and manage virtual machines. So what I want you to learn from this definition is, from this diagram, is 3 terms. The term share, the term pool, consolidation, and then the abstraction layer. So virtualization allows you to consolidate. What does that mean? As per Gartner's report, 10:1 is the basic consolidation ratio that we see, which means if I go with the previous example of 100 servers, 100 applications, 100 divided by 10, it means I need only 10 servers, not 100. So when I'm going only with 10 servers, am I reducing the cost? Definitely yes. Am I reducing the space? Yes. Am I reducing the number of cables? Yes. What about the space? Drastically reduced. So these are the benefits that we have with virtualization. So virtualization is all about running multiple workloads on a single server by pooling and sharing the resources. Virtualization is achieved by installing something called hypervisor. Habib, can I say my hypervisor is the operating system? Yep, that's easy way to put it. So hypervisors are of 2 types. Type 1, type 2. What we see in data centers is type 1. What we see on laptops is type 2. Market's leader is ESXi from VMware. Habib, is only ESXi the available hypervisor? No. We have Hyper-V from Microsoft. We have Citrix Zen server from Citrix. We have KVM from Linux community. But this guy, I'm not saying this because I'm working for that company, you can Google that, is the number 1. So this is the one, ESXi hypervisor is the one who is allowing you to achieve virtualization. So that's the definition for virtualization, guys. Virtualization is all about consolidation. Virtualization pools the resources and shares the resources with virtual machines. Virtualization is running multiple workloads on a single server. That's what virtualization is. Okay, good. Then what is cloud? Now that we understand what virtualization is, the second definition that we need to learn is what is cloud. Think about cloud as a remote data center. So what do you mean by remote data center? We all know, right? Data center is a place where you have your service, storage, networks, power plus cooling solution. So The definition for cloud is on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet. So what do you mean by IT resources? You want a server? Okay, I can give you a server on demand, which means only when you need it. And you pay for the resources that you have used. So on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet, which means, Habib, how do I access the resources? All you need is a browser. And then the address, https:// whatever the cloud provider's address is. You just type it in, for example, cloud.vmware.com, it gives you access to the VMware cloud. And then you access the resources. And then you pay for the resources that you have utilized. Everybody good so far? So we have discussed about the terms, like what is a computer, server, cluster, and a data center. Then we have talked about what virtualization is all about. So virtualization is all about running multiple workloads on a single server by consolidating the workloads and by pooling and sharing the resources across the workloads. When I use the term workload, I'm basically referring to virtual machines. Virtualization is achieved with the help of hypervisor. Hypervisor, the one which VMware offers is ESXi. Then we talk about cloud. What is cloud? Cloud is on-demand delivery of IT resources. So cloud can be considered as a remote data center. So you're accessing the resources in your remote data center via a browser over the internet. That's what we have. So that was about cloud. Now let's go with a simple question. How do I build my cloud? So let's say I'm working for a small organization. Now they understand the benefits of cloud, and then they want me to build a cloud. So let's say I'm working for a company called XYZ, and then these guys gave me a job. The job is to build a cloud. So how do I build a cloud? So to build a cloud, whether it is private, public, or hybrid, you have to follow 5 steps. Step 1 is to buy the hardware. What hardware do you need to buy? Remember, servers, storage, networks. This is the first step that you would buy because you have to set up your data center. Second step is to virtualize everything. So you have to virtualize your servers, you have to virtualize your storage, you have to virtualize your networks. That's your second step. Third step is to bring the management layer. The one who can manage your virtualization layer, the one who can offer a self-service portal to allow you to request and consume resources on demand, the one who allows you to orchestrate your day-to-day operations. This is your management layer. Step number 4 is where we talk about business continuity. Cloud operation management layer, I would say, plus your cloud operations here, which means monitoring. Step number 4 is you have to consider something called business continuity. And then step number 5 is about security and compliance. So if you want to build your cloud, these are the 5 things that you need to do, guys. So first, set up your data center. Second, virtualize everything. Third, bring in a cloud control plane, which is nothing but a management layer, which includes your monitoring solution. Then you configure your business continuity strategy, which is where the term BCDR, business continuity disaster recovery, comes into picture. Then you configure security for the components and the solutions that you have deployed and maintain compliance. Hey, Habib, is there an easy way for me to do these 5 steps? Yep, there is. So VMware offers something called SDDC. software defined data center. What do you mean by software defined data center? Give control to software. What do you mean by that? In simple terms, virtualize everything that you see in a data center. Which means SDDC is an architecture model which VMware is offering to you in order to build any type of cloud. So whether it is private cloud, whether it is public cloud, or whether it is a hybrid cloud solution. We will talk about the definitions, private, public, and hybrid in some time. I'll just pause here for a quick minute. Let me know if you have any questions, guys. Let me look at the Q&A. Okay, very much similar. There's a question from Wilson. Is cloud and virtualization similar to cloud gaming? Definitely yes. I would say that. Because you're not installing that game on your laptop. You're just connecting to the provider and then you're using the service. Any other questions, folks? So cloud is all about on-demand delivery of IT resources. Okay, there's a question from Ariel, how cloud technologies work and which is more suitable for what usage? That's where we need to understand the type of clouds first. So which cloud suffices your requirement? So let's go into that, and then I hope that would answer your question. Remember step number 5, you're the one, Kian. Kian has a very good question. How do we know that our data stored in cloud is safe and not compromised? What do you see on step number 5 here, Kian? You are the one who's configuring security. So there are standards like encrypting your data at rest, data at transit. No matter which cloud provider you want to take example of, whether it is VMware Cloud, AWS, Azure, or GCP, everybody have a solution for encryption, which means your data is encrypted through key management service. So you're the one who's protecting it. You're the ones who are following certain standards set by either the institution or the enterprise or by the government. Like for example, for hospitals, it is important for me to have HIPAA. For banking or anybody who's dealing with credit card information, I have to follow a PCI standard. So as per the standard, you're the one who's going to configure your security. So that's why all the questions that you have just asked, guys, revolves around these 5 points. Step 1, buy the hardware. Step 2, virtualize it. Step 3, bring in the cloud operations, cloud control plane, which is where the management and the cloud operations is coming into picture. Then business continuity, which is where we talk about disaster recovery. How do I make sure that my data is always available to my end users, that my application is always accessible? And then finally, we are talking about security and compliance. So now let's go forward with some basic terminologies to understand, hey, which type of cloud should I go with? So whenever we talk about cloud types, you see something called private, public, and then hybrid. Private, owned by you. Public, owned by provider, utilizing services, which means you pay as you go. You don't have anything. For example, let's say I'm a startup company and I don't have money to set up my own data center, to buy a server, to rent out a place, and then to configure a power and cooling solution. I don't have any money for that, and I don't have time as well. So public cloud is a quick go step for me. But private clouds are like are use cases for any government organizations. So most of the government organizations wants the data to be private, wants the data to be available in-house. So that's where the data is owned by the user completely. Hybrid is mixture of both, which means I have both my private environment and a public setup. A simple use case would be your disaster recovery or data center consolidations. So anything can be a use case for your hybrid cloud. Hybrid is where I have my data center, for example, in Changi Business Park, if I'm talking about DBS as an example, I have my own data center there. Hey, but I also would use a public cloud offering maybe from Azure or AWS for my disaster recovery, just an example. So it could be anything. It could be any use case. So private, public, and hybrid. So this is where I want to bring your attention to our topic, like how virtualization and cloud computing is helping an enterprise in today's time to modernize their IT environments and help fix the challenges. So the last thing which I wanted to bring up on this whiteboard before we hit the slides is multi-cloud strategy. What do you mean by multi-cloud strategy? In today's time, when we talk about an enterprise, when I say an enterprise, an IT company, or any organization which is using IT as a means of storing the data, processing the information, or any day-to operations, so we call it as an enterprise. So if you look into any enterprise in today's time, people are going for your multi-cloud strategy. So the reason why they're going for multi-cloud strategy, when I say multi-cloud strategy, they can have their own data center, DC. So this is their private infrastructure. And they can go for public cloud offering from AWS, for an example. And they can go from Azure. And they can go from GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So if you see here, these are three different vendors. These are three different companies offering you different services. So multi-cloud strategy is a statement given to an enterprise when that enterprise is having its own data center plus leveraging the resources from different cloud providers like AWS, Azure, or GCP. So this is where the term multi-cloud comes into picture. So why would I do this? If I'm an enterprise, why would I go for a multi-cloud strategy? The first thing is no vendor lock-in, which means, hey, I don't want to put all my eggs in a single basket because it's a risk which many companies want to avoid. It could be with respect to the services offering, or it could be with respect to the price, or it could be with respect to the availability of the data center which the provider is offering. So the reason number one why people are going for multi-cloud strategy is no vendor login. Reason number two is customized solutions. For example, when I'm talking about developers developing an application from my enterprise, I need something called DMZ so that whatever this guy is doing, it's not exposed to the outside world and it is isolated from the outside world. So depending upon the developer's requirement, the services offered by each vendor can differ from one another. So depending upon the customized solutions that you're planning to offer to your end clients, you can choose different vendor in order to go to them and then consume the services which they are offering. And then reason number three is minimize the risks, which is again with respect to availability, mainly in relation with BCDR. So most of these clouds go with terminals like regions and availability zones, right? Regions is your physical geographical location. Availability zones is your data centers. Every region will have a minimum of 2 data centers, which means 2 availability zones. And then multi-region business continuity solutions offerings are available depending upon the vendor. So if you want to minimize the risks, have a better BCDR solution, business continuity disaster recovery solution, go with multi-cloud vendor. Then most importantly, it's cost offerings, savings. This is where we talk about optimizing your cost and then better return on investments. So optimized ROI, optimizing the cost is one of the other reasons. And reason number 5 is lower latencies. So lower latencies. Think about solutions like Netflix. Netflix is hosted on a cloud. I don't want my laptop to connect to a server which is in US in order to stream the data because that's going to take some time. I want my laptop to connect to a server which is hosting the movie and which is in my own country, for example, Singapore. So that gives me less latency, less number of hops to pass through. So this is where we are talking about why people going for multi-cloud strategy. So because all our discussions going forward will be on this statement, and we will introduce you to what different products are available to you from VMware and how VMware is evolving, helping customer evolve with respect to their multi-cloud strategy. So let me just quickly look into the Q&A part, and then we will hit the slides. Is there a way to optimize cloud storage, etc.? Definitely yes, depending upon the use case. Example, Ariel, let's say I want my data to be archived. What do you mean by archiving? I'm sure I'm not going to use this data more frequently. So there is a type of storage service. Example, AWS offers different types of storage services, S3 versus EBS versus Glacier. So depending upon the use case, your offering and your service would change. Hope that answers your question. Let's jump into our slide deck. Okay, Veronica, what is hybrid cloud? So hybrid cloud is a combination of private and public cloud, both together. So private means what you have in your data center, complete control is with you. Public cloud is where you're taking something as a service, on-demand delivery of IT resources. So when you have mixture of both, it gives you the flexibility to migrate your workloads, which means your virtual machines or your applications from your private environment to public infrastructure with ease. That's what the hybrid cloud offers you, flexibility. And then rather than setting up a new data center altogether, you're just going to a provider who has a data center and you're taking the services from them. Yeah, wonderful. So let's get going. So the first thing which we are highlighting here is the need for multi-cloud strategy. So in today's time, I'm sure you might have heard about something called containers. I'm sure you might have heard about something called Kubernetes. Like virtual machines are offering the abstraction layer at the offering the abstraction layer at the hardware layer so that you can pool and share the resources. Your operating system level abstraction is offered to you by containers, which means if I go back to my whiteboard here for a quick minute, because this one is more in line with the container technology. So let me just draw a simple diagram for you first, and then we will quickly start our discussions with this slide here. So with virtualization, what we saw was step one was to buy the server, which means you have your hardware here. Step two was to install the hypervisor, example, your ESXi. Step three was to create your virtual machines. And within this, each of the virtual machines, you're installing your OS and application. This is what we saw. Now, I told you that this guy is the one who's giving the abstraction layer. Abstraction layer means the operating system is not allowed to access the hardware resources directly. It is the ESXi who's controlling the hardware resources. So remember the term pool? It's the ESXi who's pooling the resources and then who's sharing those resources with this guy. So this is virtualization. So what is containerization? So step one doesn't change. Step one is to buy the hardware. Step two doesn't change. It's to install ESXi. Step three, I create the virtual machine. I install the operating system. I install something called container runtime engine, and then I create containers. C1, C2, C3, C4. And then containers gives you an abstraction layer at the OS level. So you see here, all these boxes, they still go with 1:1 ratio. But here it is 1:4, which means one operating system, 4 applications. So a container is just a package which includes your application and the binaries required to run that application. No operating system there. That's why containers are very lightweight. So in simple terms, containers offer abstraction layer at the operating system level. Containers helps you package the application and the binaries together. Containers are very lightweight, so they take very less time compared to a virtual machine when we are talking about the boot time. So these are the benefits that you've got. So why am I talking about this? Because when we talk about modernization, IT modernization, when we are talking about this term here, it is a journey where from virtual machines, you're going towards containers. So virtual machines were built to run something called monolithic applications. Containers are built to run microservices architecture modeled applications. So this is the place where this slide here talks about the need for multi-cloud strategy, where we are talking about moving from existing applications, which were known as monolithic structured applications, towards your modern applications, which are built on microservices architecture. Hey, Habib, what do you mean by this? Monolithic is like one big rock, which means you have multiple tiers and all these tiers are tightly integrated with each other and they are dependent on each other, which means I cannot work with web without interacting my application with database at the backend. So web, app, and DB, if I talk about a 3-tier application, all these 3 tiers are tightly integrated. But whereas in microservices architecture, I'm dividing this big rock into multiple small stones, and each stone can work individually, rather depending on other. So that's the benefit that you've got. And then the reason why people are going towards modern applications is the time taken to develop and then the time taken to go to market is drastically reduced. Microservices architecture is developed for cloud. Microservice architecture is what people are going towards and then replacing your existing applications with SaaS-based applications. So in today's time, everybody wants diversity. What do you mean by this? I don't want one vendor lock-in. Like I said earlier, different cloud provider offers different services. So when we talk about infrastructure as an example, you can have your own data center, or you can get infrastructure as a service from a cloud provider, which means rather than you setting up your data center in a physical location, you're just going to a cloud provider and you're configuring your VPCs and then provisioning your workloads there. Edge, which is like, hey, bring the compute near to the client. So you decide. There is a choice for the customer. And then when we talk about application, if you remember the diagram, application runs on top of an operating system, right? Now, this can be within a virtual machine or this can be within a container. So depending upon the use case, again, hey, I want better consolidation ratio. I want more value for money that I've invested in my infrastructure. Go with containers. Then we are talking about services. Hey, check it out. If I take an example of Carousel, which I use heavily in Singapore, depending upon what I have chosen, what I've searched, it automatically recommends me whenever I launch that application about the things that I want to purchase. So that's your machine learning, AI, right? So there are cloud vendors who are offering the services where you can go with big data analysis and then offer your services to your end clients in a better fashion. And then finally, we are talking about management and monitoring. Remember, whenever you're setting up a cloud, a control plane is an important factor. And then monitoring your resources so that you understand how much you have to pay for those resources that you've utilized is an important factor. So we need all of these things together. So more infrastructure options than before is what today's time is offering you. Like I just discussed, on-premise is where we are talking about your own data center. Off-premise could be a cloud or could be a remote data center. For example, I have a data center in Singapore and I have a remote data center in Kuala Lumpur. So Kuala Lumpur will be my disaster recovery site and on-premises would be my Singapore site. Or it could be in the cloud or at the edge. more application options than ever before. So we have traditional applications, which is 3-tiered. We have container apps, which is where microservice architecture coming into picture. We have hybrid applications, which means our database is still a physical server. Then I have the application and the web components running inside a container or a virtual machine. That's where your hybrid app comes into picture. Packaged applications, where you might have heard about terms like Citrix XenApp or VMware's ThinApp, or you would have heard about something called app volumes. So those are the packaged applications. And SaaS apps is places like Workday, Salesforce comes into picture. So there are, point number one, different infrastructure. Point number two, different types of applications than ever before. And then more cloud services than ever before. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, data scrubbing, open source. So how do I bring all these things together? I need a management layer who can offer me one single platform to bring all the respective teams together to offer security, network and security as a single pane of glass. And then I don't have to worry about bringing in specialized skills, because if I have multi-cloud environment, I have to hire people who know AWS, who know GCP, who know Azure, who know VMware. So that's a challenging thing for me, right? And then these guys have to be trained on multiple different management tools. So how do I avoid all of this? So this is where VMware helps you with a single platform that allows you to build, run, manage, connect, and protect your multiple clouds, which means VMware is the only software company in today's time who can allow you to provision your workload anywhere you want, who can allow you to run your workload anywhere you want, who can allow you to secure your workload anywhere you want. So that's the main thing which we are offering you guys. And then, like we said earlier, with unprecedented opportunities, we have different services, we have different offerings from different cloud providers, which are spanned across multiple geographical locations, all without introducing complexity, risk, or inefficiency. So what is VMware's cloud multi-cloud strategy? So the thing which we want to offer to the end customer is, hey, we want to give you the flexibility to run your application anywhere you want, which means you can run your application on your own data center, which is built on vSphere, or you can run it on AWS, Azure, or GCP. Hey, Habib, but how do I protect it? That's where one of the guys have asked the question, right? So we go with something called micro-segmentation, where we bring security at the individual workload level, right? And then the rules with respect to the security follow the workload, no matter where the workload runs, whether it's in your data center or whether it's in a public cloud like AWS. So what VMware has done with this multi-cloud strategy is they have broken down the barriers of multi-cloud. So what they have done first, they come up with something called VMware Cloud, where they have extended the infrastructure from data center to major global cloud providers like AWS, Azure. And then they allow you to go ahead with the second stage, which is offering network and security, which means connect all your applications independent of the underlying hardware. So that's what we have, guys. So this one here talks about the strategy which we have implemented time and again with respect to how our offerings have changed with the companies that we have purchased, I can say that. So if you see in the last few years, VMware came up with a new branch of offerings for modern applications alone, whether it's partnership with multi-cloud vendor providers like IBM, AWS, or Azure, or whether it is by purchasing companies or doing acquisitions like companies like Cloud Health, which is into monitoring. Then we have Bitfusion. Then we have Bitnami, which is into application packaging. Then we have your Tanzu, which is with respect to platform offerings. So if you look from 2008 to 2020, they have changed the infrastructure paradigm. They have made sure that VMware is meant for tomorrow. VMware is offering all that is required to run your modern applications. So with VMware cloud offerings, we have about 70 million plus workloads that are running on VMware cloud. 10K plus cloud data centers available, 4.3K plus cloud provider partners, 10 million plus workloads in the cloud, 128 countries, and 169 VMware verified cloud partners. So the white dots that you see are the partner data centers, and then the blue dots, the blue circles that you see are the hyperscale clouds, guys. So what is this VMware cloud offering? So what, in simple terms, what we say is, hey, we give you the infra, we give you the control plane, and then we allow you to run, manage, and protect your workloads. So when we talk about infrastructure, VMware, like I said, it's known for virtualization, which means virtual machines. But with version 7 of vSphere, we made it container ready, which means natively the option to provision containers is possible with vSphere. And then we support container orchestration solutions like Kubernetes. So once you have your infra, whether you want to run it on VMware own data center or whether you want to go with VMware Cloud on AWS or VMware Cloud on GCP. What do you mean by VMware Cloud on AWS? The hardware is offered to you by AWS, but the software stack is from VMware, which means when it's the same software stack on your private data center and public data center, it becomes really easy for me to migrate my workloads from one place to another place. Maybe because when I need more resources, for an example, or a disaster recovery solution, another example. And then VMware Cloud offers you a single pane of glass for visibility, which means mainly for seeing everything across all the clouds from a single window. Operations, which is for monitoring. Automation, which is to offer a self-service portal where the end users can log in and then request for the resources. Security, which is where we are talking about protecting your workloads. Governance, which means I don't want anybody and everybody to go ahead and deploy the resources or consume the resources. There should be a kind of management control over the resource provisioning, and then container management. So all this is what we are offering you in the management layer. And then we offer you to run both monolithic, I'm sorry for that, monolithic architecture versus your microservices. So no matter what type of application you have, we can help you provision it, run it, and protect it. So with VMware Cloud, we are offering you consistent infrastructure, consistent operations, which allows you to automate your day-to-day operations. And then this gives flexibility for the end users in order to have a consistent development model. So what is the value for the end customer or the enterprise? So the first thing which we're offering is hybrid cloud operations. What do you mean by this? Like I said earlier, in your private data center and in your public data center, when the software stack is same, integration becomes really easy. Example, if people have worked on VMware products, they might have known something called linked mode, which is linking vCenter server component together. I can do something similar called hybrid link mode, which allows me to link my vCenter servers together and then move my virtual machines from a private data center to AWS without modifying anything. So that's where the unified management comes into picture. Hey, can I migrate tons of applications together, hundreds or thousands of virtual machines together? Yep, we can do that. That's where we have a solution called HCX. Then we have scale on demand. This is one of the use cases to go for multi-cloud strategy or hybrid cloud strategy. Basically, when we talk about business continuity or disaster recovery or backups or expansion of your resources, go with scaling. And then unify multi-cloud operations, which means single window to manage everything. So we have acquired a company called Cloud Health, which can help you simplify the financial management, which means when you have multiple clouds, you're gonna use multiple services from multiple different vendors. And when you're using multiple different services, you need to worry about the cost factors, streamlining the operations, strengthening your security and compliance. Cloud Health can help you do that. And then finally, we are talking about app modernization, which is where we are talking about Tanzu suite of products, which helps us to understand how we can make it container ready, how we can go ahead and integrate with Kubernetes with ease. So VMware multiple cloud solution offerings helps you match every application to the best cloud environment, optimize your cost, access your innovation for all your applications, and operate securely and efficiently across any cloud. Then let's quickly look into hybrid cloud platform. Like we said, hybrid cloud, the term hybrid cloud is combination of private and public, or private public with edge. So edge, consider it as a hub and spoke architecture. Hub being the cloud, your edge are the spokes, small data centers, where the processing of your data happens locally. Consistent infrastructure and consistent operations is what VMware is offering you guys. So traditionally, when we talk about private data center, public data center, the set of tools which are used are different. The software stacks were different. But now with hybrid cloud strategy, what are we doing? We are giving you a simple software stack, which means it's the same VMware software, which is running on AWS infrastructure or GCP infrastructure or Azure infrastructure. That's where the term VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation, comes into picture, which is a hybrid cloud platform, which allows me to run the same software stack across any cloud vendor offering. So what is the benefit as an end user I'm getting? So unified policies, better security, better SLS, consistent operations, and same tool sets. So if you see here, this is what I've told you. Step one is always to buy the hardware. Step two is to virtualize it. Your step two is to virtualize. Step three is where we talked about the management layer, which is where automation and operations is coming into picture. And then the term Tanzu Kubernetes Grid is basically helping you run containers on top of vSphere and making ESXi hypervisor as your worker node. So I don't want to get into that, but in simple terms, what we are trying to highlight here is how VMware has evolved just from being a virtualization company to a cloud company. So it gives you the complete hybrid cloud platform so that you can run your enhanced applications on a single page. And then VMware Cloud Foundation, some numbers. So this is a hybrid cloud platform. It brings these solutions as a package together. So vSphere is a data center virtualization solution. vSAN is a storage virtualization solution. NSX is a network virtualization solution. vRealize is your automation layer plus operations. So basically, what we have done with VCF is we have packaged this together, and then we have given you a software called SDDC Manager to manage all these softwares and the lifecycle management of these softwares. So this is what we are this is what we are doing. What is the benefit that I'm getting out of it? Your migration becomes easy because of the flexibility, because it's the same software stack across both private and public infrastructure, and then you're modernizing it because we are going with something called HCI. So if you look at the number of customers, the partners, and then the number of companies, Fortune 100 companies, 99% of them are already evolved with VMware Cloud Foundation Leadership Board. So what are the few benefits that I'm getting to it? Developer-ready infrastructure, universal platform, lowest TCO, and then extension of your solution to third-party providers, whether it is for monitoring or whether it is for extending your application packaging or whether it is just for hosting the cloud resources. So vSphere is a data center virtualization solution, which helps you virtualize your infrastructure in your data center. If you remember the term software-defined data center, it's an architecture model which helps us build the cloud. So it brings virtualization to your service, to your storage, and to your networks. And then a management layer with vRealize suite. With hybrid cloud, what are we doing? We are giving you something called SDDC Manager, which brings all the cloud foundation components together that are running on different clouds, whether it is AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, or IBM Cloud. This is what we are offering you. So one single platform for your network and security as well. So this is the evolution that you see how VMware has evolved from just being a virtualization company to a major cloud player. So who should go for the hybrid cloud solutions? I would say anybody and everybody who have a strategy for BCD, who have a strategy for long-term scalability, who have a strategy for high availability of the data, right? So start with your data centers if you already have one, and then extend your capabilities to your public cloud providers, and then get the resources. So that provider can be your VMware Cloud on AWS or VMware Cloud on Dell EMC, or a partner, which is like IBM Cloud, Oracle, or Alibaba Cloud. So here we are talking about different solutions which VMware is selling in market today. So we have vRealize, Cloud Health, Tanzu Mission Control. So vRealize, whenever you hear this term, this is for cloud management plus monitoring operations. So helps you troubleshoot your environment, helps you manage capacity in a better way, automation governance through policies, gives you self-service portal, and make sure that performance of your workload is maintained. Cloud Health is more into monitoring part. So this one is with respect to cost management, security, optimization of your resource utilization, and automating certain actions. Tanzu is a solution. I'm sorry for that. Tanzu Mission Control is a monitoring solution for all your Kubernetes workloads, no matter where this workload is running, which means when we talk about Kubernetes, that's an orchestration layer for your containers, which allows you to perform all day two operations automatically on your containers, whether it is for monitoring, whether it is to provide you high availability for your containers, whether it is to restore the running state of your containers. That's where the Kubernetes comes into picture. So basically with TMC, no matter where your Kubernetes clusters are running, no matter which cloud they are running, we can monitor it from a single screen. That's where we offer you something called Wavefront, which is again a company acquired by VMware. It offers you observability, which gives you deep insights into the data collected for your Kubernetes environments. And then application packaging solution, Bitnami, also helps. So as of today, what do we see? Even though organizations have adopted for multi-cloud strategy, the time taken for them to migrate from the private environment to the public environment is huge. Like for example, 16% of the customers says they have taken less than about 6 months to migrate their workloads. 31% says 6 months to 1 year, 31% says 1 to 2 years, and there are 22% of the customers who say more than 3 years. So the cloud migration has become a bigger challenge. But with VMware Cloud Foundation, which is a hybrid cloud platform, like I said, because the software stack is same, you don't need to make any changes. The migration becomes really easy. So 71% less staff time, fastest way of migrating through HCX, economical with respect to your cost of management is what we are offering you when you go with migrate to VMware Cloud. So no matter what type of workload it is, no matter where the workload is running, whether it is service like Amazon Machine Learning or IBM Watson AI or Azure SQL Database, we can tightly integrate that with your workloads running in your private data center or running in your hybrid cloud infrastructure. So what is VMware Cloud on AWS? The hardware is offered to you by AWS, but the software stack is from VMware. So the software stack includes vSphere, NSX, vSAN, and then we give you something called SDDC Manager. So basically in your data center, when you have the same software, and in your AWS cloud, you have the same software, it's the same infrastructure. So it becomes really easy for you to go ahead and migrate your workloads between your data center and public cloud environments. And then because it is running, this software stack is running on AWS, all the AWS services, there are 160 plus services which are available to you that can be easily integrated with this stack. So deliver hybrid operations across data center, cloud, and edge. Access a broad portfolio of VMware services plus AWS services. And then the consistency. Like I said earlier, this vSphere can be tightly integrated with your private data center infrastructure, which offers you a single window management. So if you look at the VMware Cloud Foundation in your customer data center versus AWS data center, it's the same stack of software. For compute, we give you vSphere. For storage, we give you vSAN. For network, we give you NSX. And because this is running on AWS hardware, it is easy for me to go ahead and access the AWS services, whether it is, for example, S3, which is a storage solution from AWS. So VMware and AWS are continuously growing together. They are innovating, and then they are putting services together to help customers migrate with ease, to offer the flexibility which is required for the customers. For example, having a common networking backbone. So that's where we have come up with data centers in Mumbai, Seoul, and Sao Paulo, and then advanced networking configurations options available. Microsegmentations through NSXT, desktop virtualization through Horizon. So all these are the benefits that you're getting depending upon the region, and then depending upon the provider. So for AWS, all these are the new services which we have integrated with VMC. So similarly, as of now, we are available in all these regions. And then in future, we'll be available in China, Japan, and then Middle East, Bahrain. And then, like we said earlier, for security and compliance, all these standards are maintained by both VMware and AWS. Similar to AWS, we have partnered with Microsoft Azure, who is also one of the biggest cloud providers. Seamless experience for the end user, which means same software stack, but the hardware is offered to you by Microsoft. What is the benefit? Rapid migration options, access of broad portfolio of services from a single window. As of now, VMC on Azure is available to you on West US, East US, and West Europe. And in 2020, they have planned, it's already available for South Central US, Japan, and Southeast Asia. The third provider which we have partnered with is GCP, Google Cloud Platform. And then again, with GCP, we offer a broad range of innovative native Google services, migration options available to you with ease, deliver hybrid operations across data center, cloud, or edge, access a broad portfolio of VMware services. Other partners who are offering VMware software stack for you to provide the flexibility are IBM, Alibaba, and Oracle. So depending upon the customer and the use case, we have a broad range of choice for customers to choose from. So VMware Cloud Services are one of the fastest way to get your own cloud, the best environment for all your applications, because we support both virtual machines and containerized workloads, which means monolithic architecture versus architecture, delivers the best cloud economics, which means with respect to cost. Finally, we just wanted you to introduce you to something called the monitoring part for your cloud strategy. So when you have multiple clouds, you need one platform to monitor all these clouds. This is where we have acquired a company called Cloud Health Technologies. Now it's known as Cloud Health by VMware. So 97% of the organizations have adopted the multi-cloud strategy, which means their workloads are running on different cloud platforms. Some are in the data center, some are in AWS, some are in Azure. So I need a single solution which can monitor across all these things. So if I don't have a single solution, what are the challenges? Low visibility, insufficient or over provisioning, security issues, performance issues, diversity and scalability issues. So if you want to take a closer look at how some of our customers have achieved some of the best benefits of bringing solutions like Cloud Health, that's where we are showing you this. So Cloud Health by VMware is a global leader in multi-cloud management. So basically, this gives you operational governance, security and compliance, control your cloud costs. All this is possible. everything from a single window. So 5K plus customers, 11 billion plus multi-cloud spending under management, 25% average savings is what Cloud Health offers. So the first three major pillars which it offers is the financial management, operational governance, and security compliance, which means it gives you a simplified view for your cloud cost. In simple terms, we're talking about metering. Because cloud is always about on-demand resource utilization, how much am I using? That streamlines the operations, which helps you create your custom policies so that you can monitor your daily cloud operations and then reduce the risks, and also strengthen the security and the compliance part. And then here we are talking about building a successful cloud center of excellence, which is by having a complete visibility, optimizing the resource utilizations, setting up policies for better governance, and then integrating with third-party solutions with ease. The speed with which it can process the data and helps you with the information required to troubleshoot is something commending with Cloud Health. It improves the collaboration and drives innovation for the customers, which means you don't have to worry about your operations anymore. You have to just look into your application part. So these are some examples of some real-time customers who have benefited by using Cloud Health solution. For example, Cox Automotive, they are focusing on the reasons why they have adopted the public cloud strategies, drives accountability across 40 business units. And then you can see here, they have spent huge amount of time to integrate multiple clouds together in order to monitor them. But with Cloud Health, they were able to do this with less time, and then they were able to manage all the spendings with respect to AWS reporting and optimize and reserved instance management was become easy for them. And then similarly for ZipWhip, it was for about 240 security risks, which were simply highlighted by Cloud Health. And then they were able to fix those problems in a day in order to get them running. So that's it from my end, guys. We are offering certain courses through NTUC for beginning your journey with cloud. So anything and everything related to your cloud fundamentals, you can use the first link, which is ntuclearninghub.com course VMware Virtualization Cloud Fundamentals. And then similarly with respect to machine learning, if you want to start it as a service offering from AWS, we have a training course for the same. So I will pause here for a quick minute and then look at the Q&A, check out the questions. Okay, OS is the operating system, CRE is container runtime engine, example softwares like Dockers. Without that software, you can't go ahead and create containers. That's for Shimeng. Yep, Sabrinathan, there's a question, do cloud providers offer AI services? Yep, so whenever we talk about AI, the first thing they will highlight is, how do I say it? Subset components. For example, your deep learning, then comes the machine learning, then comes the artificial intelligence. So these three stages is what you need to look into. So AI mainly looks into how you can imitate the human intellectual behavior, whereas machine learning is all about running certain algorithms to understand what are the choices which benefits the customer depending upon the data collected. Okay, Tang. When you're going with hybrid cloud solutions like VCF, you only interact with VMware. You don't interact with AWS. You will pay AWS only when you add on extra services from AWS. For example, let's say for archiving your data, you want to access a service called Glacier. Infrastructure is given to you by VMware, but this is an extra service, which is a storage service. So you pay for that storage service. So in that situation, yes, you will be paying both VMware and AWS. So it depends on the use case. Okay, there's a question from Valerie. What would it take to reprogram monolithic applications to modernize them? Most of the companies are already in the process, Valerie. They are migrating from your modern to your, from your monolithic architecture to your microservices architecture. There are tools available. So I have my colleague Murali also with me here. I see he's also answering a few questions. What is ILO? ILO stands for Integrated Lights Out. It's the specialized hardware available to you with HP service. Dell calls it as DRAC. What is a switch for? A switch is basically a networking component which allows multiple PCs. Yeah, I see Murali has already answered them. Any other questions, guys? Keep them coming. No, I mean, you're right to say Valerie. Valerie is asking a question, is it like easy, like lift and shift? No, it is not. So basically you have to change the complete model. For example, instead of having a standard 3-tier infrastructure for your application, here you would bring up multiple smaller components, which each component will offer a different service independent of the other. So you have to change the complete model. The term cloud native means applications which are meant or built to run on containers. So that's the easy way to put it. So refactoring is all about moving those applications from your virtual machines to container fronts. Great. Thanks for those questions, Valerie. So we have 15 more minutes, guys. Okay, there's a question from Sabrina Nathan. Okay. In the absence of multi-cloud strategy, what is the benefit of having VMware on cloud? So multi-cloud is not, I mean, not necessarily every company will go for multiple cloud providers to get the service. It depends on the use case, like I said earlier. But at least with VMC on AWS or any hybrid cloud platform, you have an opportunity to optimize your costs. You have an opportunity to scale your infrastructure on demand. For example, a simple BCDR strategy. That's where VMware Cloud comes into picture, or VMware Cloud on AWS, or VMware Cloud on Azure comes into picture. What is Qnap? I'm not sure about Qnap. Will running VMware in Qnap? Okay, definitely. ESXi is a bare metal hypervisor, which means it is not meant to be nested. Time. Okay, great. Then we have, okay, like I said, ESXi is a bare metal hypervisor, which means you buy the hardware, have the ESXi ISO, mount it, and restart the server. You directly install it. You don't need any mediator. For type 2 hypervisor, we do that. Example, I buy the laptop, I install Windows 10 operating system, then I install Workstation, which is also a type of hypervisor, but it is type 2 hypervisor. Then I create virtual machines. So to answer Lep Sing Fu's question, you don't need to install any other operating systems. So ESXi itself is an operating system. It's a bare metal, which means you have the hardware, your ESXi sits on top of it directly. Valerie, I would say you're right to say that. But again, it depends on the services. What service offerings do you really look out for? Depending upon that, you would choose your partner. I won't say VMC on AWS or VMC on Azure is the go-to thing, but it depends on the availability of the data centers across the regions, right? So what if you want to particularly host this application for your South American customer base? You need to figure out if this vendor has a data center in countries like Argentina, right? So which is like thousands of miles away. Alan, security is always a question. So what strategy are you implementing is the point. So most of the cloud providers, we go with certificate-based authentications, right? Apart from that, for data protection, like I said earlier, you have to go with encryption standards. If you're not encrypting your data, tomorrow if hacker hacks your environment, it is easy for him to steal the data. What if you have already encrypted it? If you have encrypted it, the data would be of no use to him because the keys to decrypt the data is available only with you. So let me walk you through this particular link here, which gives you more. I mean, most of the points that we have discussed here today from Q&A are answered easily with this fundamental training course where we introduce you to vSphere, vSAN, and NSX. Remember the 5 steps to build your cloud? What was step 1? Buy the hardware. Step 2, virtualize everything. Step 3, get the management layer. Step 4, configure your business continuity. Step 5, security and compliance. So if you want to know about these 5 steps, this is the course which NTUC is offering in today's time. So this is good for anybody who wants to build their own cloud. So if you see here, the course overview, it talks about the products like vSphere, which is to virtualize your service, vSAN, which is to virtualize your storage, NSX, which is to offer you the layer 2 to layer 7 networking services as software defined, which means virtualizing your networks, and the vRealize suite. And this is the suite which are offering you as a software package on VMC on AWS or VMC on Azure. So there are, I mean, you can see the course schedule. I'll put this link in the chat box. You can click on this link and then you can view the information about the course, download the schedule availability, and then reach out to the folks from NTUC if you have any questions, guys. So any other questions, folks? Let me just put this in the chat box here. So the link that I've just pasted in the chat box is for the VMware Virtualization and Cloud Fundamental course. The duration for this course is about 23 hours. There's a small assessment at the end of this training program. What you will be learning is about all the virtualization technologies. So what is virtualization? What is cloud? How to build cloud? How vRealize Suite brings these siloed softwares together. So yeah. The best part is you can use the Skills Future credit. So basically it's gonna be very, very easy for you to go for this course and acquire the technical abilities required. So let me reach out to my colleague here. Murli, anything more that you want to add on?
Hi Habib, no, you covered everything.
Okay, final look at the Q&A. So Tang, whether it is GCP or AWS, what VMware is doing is we are using a software platform called VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation. So basically it's a stack of softwares. So we give you vSphere, NSX, vSAN together as a package. And this software solution is what we are deploying it on Google's hardware. That's what we are doing. So it's the same tool. For example, in your private data center, you would connect to something called vSphere client to manage your infra. It's the same client that you would use within the Google Cloud in order to access your resources through SDTC management console. Hope that answers your question, sir. Wonderful. So it was really nice discussion, guys, this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed the session. Reach out to us, reach out to NTUC if you have any questions on any of the content that we have discussed. Like said by Kevin, the content will be shared accordingly with you folks. So stay safe. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, folks.